to have you join us on the program Tuesday Live. Omini Odan is my name. Besides growing the nation's gross domestic product GDP, in the 80s and 60s, agriculture was a major employer of labor in Nigeria. However, the discovery of oil led to the relegation of the booming sector that was envisaged to propel Nigeria to industrialization. Interestingly, there are actions and policies in revamping the sector that is yielding results, especially in the last 5 years, to guarantee food sufficiency and security. There are much more, especially with decisions that agriculture would run through its entire value chain. The interest here is that farming will pass through processing, that is adding value and sales locally and internationally. This could be buttressed by reports that Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava the world over, with 34 billion metric tons produced per annum, yet contributes 0% in terms of value addition in global trade. How attractive are incentives in wooing foreign and local investors into the sector? What about issues of regulation, repayment of loans, marketing and trade, investment in cold chain technology? Answers and more tonight on NTA's Tuesday Live. Don't stray steps away. Being the tradition of the program, we shall bring you reports from different parts of the country, all to appraise the agricultural value chain in Nigeria. But after this report put together by Musa Baba Aliu.
By the year 2050, Nigeria is projected to be the third most populous country in the world. Global population by then would be 9.8 billion people. Imagine the future of the country if it cannot provide food that will feed the ever-growing population. And how will the country survive if there is no money to import food?
If we have that mouths to feed, it means that we have to mechanize. And that is very key. The fundamental objective of the government is self-sufficiency in food production and also to create an enabling environment for value chain, i.e. synergy between the agricultural sector and the industrial sector.
Effective and efficient agricultural research institutions, commodity marketing boards, and extension services provided adequate support to small-scale farmers before and after the independence of Nigeria. In those years, financial moral support were given to researchers to come up with innovations that will improve productivity across all the value chain of agricultural commodities.
These days, it's knowledge that is driving development, and the more informed the extension workers are, the better they are to inform and guide farmers to use improved technology. And when farmers use improved technology, they will enhance their productivity, and productivity will lead to increased food production.
Investigations indicated that Nigeria is among the few countries around the world with less population of extension service providers to farmers. The reality in most states of the Federation is that one extension officer is saddled with the responsibility of taking care of more than 30,000 farmers against the recommended standard.
Ask the government to please establish, go back to that rural farm centers, which will help the extension services. And this thing will encourage us and the ministry to go back to the system of farming. We want to modernize the system.
President Muhammadu Buhari, while taking the mantle of leadership in 2015, told Nigerians that his administration would not tolerate importation of food that can be produced locally. As such, his government pushed for new policies and programs that will upscale local food production to meet local demand and that of international market. This the administration achieved through the core program, which include the Anchor Brewers program that allows farmers access to finance to boost production. Presidential fertilizer initiative that brought down prices of input to 5,500 naira.
Recalled by President Muhammadu Buhari launched the Anchor Brewers program on November 17, 2015. The program aims to provide farm inputs in cash and kind to to smallholder farmers in order to boost local production of commodities, including rice, and to stabilize inputs supply to agro-processors and address the country's negative balance of payments on food.
In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Appraising Nigeria's agricultural value chain is the focus of Tuesday Live tonight. That background by Musa Babaliu sets the tone for the program. As you know, at some point in the course of the program, our phone lines will be open and displayed on the set of your screen. Make your phone calls, ask your questions, raise your concerns, and our team of guests will address them. Also, Tuesday Live can be followed on Twitter at Tuesday Live NTA. Send in your tweets, throw questions and concerns, and you can be part of the conversation. Well, my team of guests, I have the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Sabonono. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Munil Baba Danagundi, Chairman, House Committee on Agroecology and Research Institutions. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Salamatu Garba, Executive Director, Women Farmers Advancement Network, WOFAN. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Thank you very much.
And I must say you are blessed among men tonight.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Professor Ibrahim Umar Abubakar, Executive Director, Institute of Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'm a former executive director. I'm now a professor of agronomy at Ahmadu Bello University.
You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Well, quickly, Honorable Minister, starting with you. Just a few days ago, you were dotting the landscape of Nigeria. What took you round?
Well, I went to see some silos in 3 states. One is Zamfara state, a fully automized silo system with capacity of about 100,000 tons. Then from there, I went to Jahu. We have a silo there, but that one has been leased. But I found them stocking paddy rice, maize, and other crops. Then from there, I drove to Gaya in Kano State. The silo there is complete, but virtually no activity. I would like you to know that we have 33 silos across the country. And this is a backbone of our food security system in the country. Some of them have been leased, although we are reviewing some of the leases we have given. Others are maintained by us, and we will continue to maintain them and stocking food stuff, especially those that are required on everyday life, like maize, sorghum, millet, gari, and so on and so forth. So this is what took me, and in the process, I was equally sensitizing the state government on our new program of agricultural mechanization that we are hoping will start within the next 6 months, which involves about 632 local governments. And attached to that will be a cluster of local government producing common commodities. And this will act as processing centers, linking up with service centers. which will be the core and the driving force. And it may interest you to know that all this program is going to be private sector driven. The government will only give support in terms of granting the loan facility and also in the process ensuring payments of the loan. Our estimate is this is a Bible project, and I am urging those that are interested in farming should key into this new program, because it is going to be a major revolution in this country. You have to take into consideration that Nigeria has a population, they are talking about 200 million people. They are projecting that in the next 3 decades, we may be in the region of 400 million. And if you add up other accessories from the West African sub-region, so you will find that our population is underestimated, because what we produce here, probably 1/3 of it goes to feed the West African sub-region. You know for a fact that Nigeria owns nearly 70% of the GDP of the West African sub-region. So that is a clear challenge for Nigeria. But how do you go about that? It has been estimated that 65% of the arable land in the world is in Africa. Now, if that is the case, Nigeria must have 30 to 35% of that 65%. If you translate that down at home, we are talking in Nigeria, we have between 84 to 92 million hectares of land that is cultivatable, so-called arable land. Presently, it is estimated that we are only cultivating about 34 million hectares. And if you observe carefully, this 34 million hectares that we are talking about, probably with mechanization, with modernization of agriculture, in terms of providing good seeds, improved seeds, that will give you more yield per hectare. Even this 34 hectares, what they will give us will be enormous. The average yield per hectare in this country is running between 1.5 tons to about 2 tons or 3. But average yield in most of these countries across the board is between 8 to 10 tons per hectare. So even with this level of cultivation of 34 million hectares, you will find that once the chips are down, there isn't much to write home about. So the key here is mechanization, production of improved seed, and research for new methods on agriculture. One very serious, which I want people to note, in Nigeria today we have only 7,000 functional tractors. I'm not talking about political tractors, functional tractors. This translates to 7 tractors per 100 square kilometer. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, compare us with Kenya. It has 27 tractors per 100 square kilometers. If you take the standard, it's 127 tractors per 100 square kilometers. In some of the European countries, like Germany, they have 1,200 hectares per 100 square kilometers. So when you look at that, you know that there is a challenge. And all what we are talking about agriculture in this country, in terms of creating a platform for food sufficiency and also for the value chain that we are talking about. You cannot achieve it without revolutionizing agriculture through mechanization. Okay. Because the level of penetration of mechanization into the agricultural sector in Nigeria is nothing to write home about. It's low. 7 tractors. What is 7 tractors? So when you look at this, you start wondering, how do you go about it? And that's what we are putting forward before us. A program of agricultural mechanization that will affect 632 local governments.
Out of 740?
Most of the local governments that will not be affected are those in the urban centers. But those in the rural areas will be affected. And this will involve a tractor hiring system with a tracking system, so that wherever tractors are working, you will know. And you will know the amount of work they do and the income earned. Then there will be a workshop. Then there will be a storage facility for seeds, for even crops that are produced with excess, and in some clusters of local government with a processing plant to process those commodities that are produced within those localities of the local government. So with this, what will be at the core of this is that it is going to be a private sector driven. They will own this service center. How do they own it? It's through a bidding process. Probably you will make an investment of 5 to 6 million naira, and you will have an asset worth probably 150 million naira. If you take a local government with 10 directors, director with full complement in this country now is about 14 million naira. That already at 140 million naira. Okay, the issue now is, since this is the driving force, the director hiring scheme of all these activities, the value chain is around this, from directors, owners, to operators, to booking agent, to service agent, to mechanics.
Okay, let me just hold it there. We have a huge lot before we knock off all the points we're about to address. We'll come right back there. Good. Now, Munir, you're the chairman, House Committee on Agri Colleges and Research Institutions, but you have a pedigree of being a former chairman of council somewhere in Nigeria, right?
Yes.
Beautiful. Now, with your experience and the position you're holding today, what's your projection if all what the minister has reeled out? As much as he has said, despite all this, there are challenges. If all this works, the tractor hiring services put together with the analysis he has made, where will you see Nigeria agricultural value chain maybe in the next 2 years?
Yes, thank you very much. And let me start by saying agriculture is in the concurrent list, which you have the states, the local government, and the federal. And once we don't have synergy by the 3 tiers of government, for everybody to be doing something different, then we'll never get it right. But from my experience when I was local government chairman, one of the major problems I remember we faced is the issue of administration of farm inputs, which is very much political and patronage and what have you. No matter how transparent you are at that level of local government, you will hardly achieve the desired objective in terms of subsidy administration. So I was opportune also when I came to the House of Reps between 2011 to 2015, where where that issue has been able to be addressed under ATA program, whereby you register farmers under e-wallet system, because we need to know who are Nigerian farmers. How do we know them in the system, so that the inputs can easily go to them? Let's say, I know in 2011, when we started, I was opportunity to be Deputy Chairman House Committee on Agriculture. If you take the seed sector, the seed is the most important component in terms of productivity in agriculture, which takes about 50%. The other rest will take about another 50%, maybe tractorization, fertilizer, and what have you. So when we came, we look at it for the rice sector, the value chain approach, which the government was trying to address that time, and then the issue of subsidy administration, whereby I am somebody who would advocate always subsidy in this agri sector, which America, Europe, and all other countries are giving subsidy, but to the right people, to the right farmers. As I said, when they are registered under the e-wallet system. I know in 2011, we had only about less than 14,700 metric tons of certified seeds. But I know as time goes on, it rose to up to 170,000 metric tons in terms of the seed sector in the rice sector. I know we didn't have seed, but it was imported from some African countries, which bridged the gap, and that was what accelerated the rice production in the country under that value chain, and rose up to what we are having now with the Anko Borowa program. So for you to achieve anything, you have to increase productivity, as the minister said, in terms of the seeds that we have. You know, seed is like human, because it's something lively. So you have to have seed that when you produce between now, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, at least you'll be able to have grains under that. Then you will dispose and get another one at the most. But you know, our farmers used to continue planting grains. But I hope the ministry will continue to address the sixth sector as it was started in the ATA program. Because some of these distortions or disconnect in policy issues is what is making the country to retard in some of the progress we have made. And I'm sure by the time, from what I discussed with the Honorable Minister, that the ministry should look at the policies from ATA to green alternative to what we have, so that we can be able to continue building on those achievements, if possible to legislate, so that nobody can come at any time and bring us back to the old days. So this, I think, should be something that we have time now. We have a way of indicators in terms of how much we reduce in terms of the import bills, how much food we are able to produce from what program we are conceiving. So there should be indicators on what we are doing.
Okay.
And with that, I think, as he said, tractorization is something that will also help the farmer. But for me, definitely subsidies should be given to Nigerian farmers because they need it. Like if an American farmer needs subsidy, what of the West African or Nigerian farmer?
Okay.
So these are some of these.
Let's take a listen to Warfan. Now, the minister has talked about the fact that key to what, or core to what government is trying to do across over 600 local government areas in the country is the private sector. Would you say the private sector is ready to take up this?
Thank you very much. I believe so, if an enabling environment is given to the private sector. And I believe there's going to be a lot of success in terms of achieving our target of providing enough food for our people at any time T. The private sector is enterprise-driven, and that is what we actually need to promote youth and women empowerment, for instance. It's not about being a smallholder farmer for the rest of your life. It's about scaling up. So in as much as we're talking about food security in the country, let us also look at the scalability and make it a demand-driven kind of vocation where every child from the school, every woman in her home is desiring to go into farming and take up any aspect of the value chain. So I agree with the Honorable Minister and the Chairman House Committee that we need to put our heads together to provide an enabling environment and mechanization, of course. The population is getting out of hand. We're talking about 200 million. And in the next few years, we will maybe probably double that. So how do we feed the same populace using the same size of land and still using the traditional system if we don't jack up using agricultural mechanization method? And of course, you cannot achieve that if the extension agents remain as dormant as they are now. I think government and even the policy is overlooking the extension services, which also will feed into the private sector. For instance, the private sector, look at the seed producers. The seed producer should not be allowed to just drop you the seed and collect the money without providing the extension services and supporting the farmer to see that the seed has gone up to the stage of production, which means private sector is also needed to partner with the extension services. So extension is way behind, and I appeal with the Honorable Minister to pay a little bit more attention to our institutions that are almost redundant now. If you look at the international agencies, the strength of their work and why they achieve results is because they partner with these extension agents and build their capacity. So once you build the capacity of an extension agent, being a man or a woman, it means that it is beneficial to the farmer. And once the capacity of the farmer is built, it means that he can also put in some resources, that is in terms of production. If we want to scale up like the Honorable Minister is talking, the smallholder farmer is at the base of the pyramid. Now, if the pyramid at the base is weak, I don't know how the top is going to stay. So we have to put all our energies to see that the smallholder farmers, especially women and youth, are supported, because that is where the raw material to go to the industries will be. You asked a fantastic question that if we set up our industries and put everything in place and we're not getting raw material, what is going to happen? You have a machine that can produce 280 tons per day, and the farmers are only producing 200. Just tell me for how long that factory will work. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof, before I wrap up the first segment, let me take you on this. Now, if you take a flow through the agricultural sector in Nigeria, we are talking about the agricultural value chain. It took up with some programs vividly. Quickly, I can remember the Operation Feed the Nation, Green Revolution, all sorts of presidential initiatives. But today we are looking at the agricultural value chain. If we don't set timelines and we have targets, can we get it right?
Thank you very much.
Targets without timelines.
Definitely we cannot get it right. We really have to prioritize. You know, the value chains that are critical, I believe, to Nigeria today are rice, because of the massive importation of the commodities some years back, wheat that we consume almost every day in our homes, poultry and fish that we import a lot, palm oil and granite, which we import a lot. These value chains are actually the value chains that we are supposed to focus our attention on. Largely because by doing so, we'll be creating employment to our youth and women. In addition to that, we'll reduce poverty, which is highly endemic in this country today. In addition to that, we'll be able to reduce the importation of these crops and save foreign exchange. And some of these crops, like cocoa, for example, can be exported and we earn foreign exchange. So we really have to identify those value chains that we have to work on. And you know, when you talk of value chain, it means from primary production, from hoe to fork, from primary production to the table. And along these value chains, you create lots and lots of employment opportunities. The minister has started on the right pedestal. Mechanization. You know, mechanization is not just about tractor. It has to be taken the whole lock. Tillage, harvesting. Harvesting is very critical because for rice and wheat, for example, the cost of harvesting is almost 40% of the total cost of production. Do you know why? Because by the time the laborers who are harvesting manually see the quantum production they harvest, and because it is manual, the farmer is desperate to harvest his crop or else he loses, because some of these crop charter, if you don't harvest them on time, at the appropriate time, you are likely to lose them in the field. So because of that desperation, the cost of harvesting is another major item of mechanization. So if we are going for mechanization, it's good to start with land preparation, which is tractor and the implements associated with land preparation and so on. But we also have to talk of threshing, harvesters and so on. I heard the minister talking about this initiative being private driven. Private driven in Nigeria means in court. These private people will have to go and get loan from the bank. If they get loan at the current rate of interest, 20%, sometimes upward of that, it means the burden will go back to the farmers, because a private man will not lose anyway. He will charge the farmer based on his costs and to be able to make a profit. So the government should be able to intervene in that. The government has to find a way of either subsidizing the capital that these private individuals are going to draw.
That the chairman said.
Yes.
Okay.
They have to subsidize the capital. Just like in the Anko borrower. If you don't subsidize the capital, the burden will be on the farmers. Okay. Because I cannot, for example, go and borrow money at 20% and be charging a farmer 5,000 naira per hectare.
Let me hold it. In the next leg of our discussion,
yes,
we'll do a shift. Let's take a couple of reports across the country because, like we said, we're looking at appraising the agricultural value chain in Nigeria. And our next line of reports coming from Kaduna and Ibadan, we'll be taking a look at the dairy sector of the agricultural value chain before we sustain the conversation. And to our viewers, you can be part of the conversation when our phone lines are displayed on the screen and also our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. Just after these reports, beginning with that from Kaduna.
White gold, as it is called by those who have the conviction that dairy production is the next gold mine.
And any investor today that wants to come into this country should please study the indices of performances of the various sectors. I assure you the dairy sector is going to be number one. Why? Because one, the country today has about 22 million animals that are ready for upgrade.
Idi Mukhtar is not only a private investor who has a modern dairy farm, but a beneficiary of the fallout of a pen-to-paper agreement between Kaduna State government and a multinational dairy firm. The first phase of the project takes off with 1,000 nomadic farmers supplying milk to the firm, while the multinational milk giant provides technical assistance with a subsequent investment of 100 million euros.
Every farmer is a partner in this project, and by the grace of God, each of the farmers will receive his certificate of occupancy and will build the facilities to enable him to realize his full potentials.
Kaduna State government is supervising the project with keen interest and is planning to replicate it in 15 other grazing reserves within the state. The dairy farms involved in the first phase of the project are already experiencing swelling number of milkmaids, bringing in supplies of the white gold with collectors waiting to uptake. For Kaduna State, it could be a humble beginning, but with more dairy farms waiting to key into the project, national production of milk may hit record levels. In Kaduna, Abdullahi Muhammad.
The lineup is a report from Ibadan, Oyo State.
Collaboration among stakeholders in the dairy value chain involving governments and private organizations is covering new grounds in Oyo State, giving an indication that Nigeria has the potentials to bridge the wide gap of inadequate milk supply in the country. Apart from connecting more pastoralists in local milk sourcing through an extensive and well-coordinated local milk collection ponds scattered across the Oyo State, the collaboration is embracing innovations, raising the frontiers of the practice with entrenched benefit for operators.
We partner with the Federal Ministry of Agri to ensure that we have more supply of raw milk, developing dairy in the urban and rural area. In some few months back, we recorded a huge success having crossbreeds, which can produce milk from 10 liters upward. That is where we are.
More capacity building and extension services are changing the dairy practices with improved knowledge of animal management and care among the local farmers.
The dairy development in Oyo State is developing fast because we are able to bring over 7,000 Fulani milk producers into the value chain dairy development.
When we started this program, we were throwing away the milk because it did not meet our quality standard. So we had to train them on every area of milk quality.
With a readily available market for pastoralists, there are indications that penchant for migration among them will be greatly reduced, thereby raising the bar of the entire value chain of milk production for local consumption as well as for export. In Ibadan, Tayo Gunshola.
Those reports sustain the conversation on appraising Nigeria's agricultural value chain. Now, that's just a snippet of what we are looking at. We have the perspective of the private sector involvement. We have the perspective of the rice revolution in Nigeria. But quickly, with all this, we hear so much about the incoming agriculture processing zone. What informed this, and how soon is it taking off?
Well, I think if we are following the news, you will realize that these processing zones that we are establishing they will be linked to the local commodities that are being produced. Maybe in the livestock subsector, maybe in the rice production subsector. The issue is, how do you create a platform that will not only produce food that is sufficient for that local community, but you process it further. And this, we are doing it with agricultural, with the African Development Bank. Mark you, this program started about 4 years. It's just being realized now, and we hope that within the next 3 months we will conclude and the operation in that regard will start. It will be all-encompassing, and it will be related to the commodities that are being produced in that particular area. We have shown in this small pitch of reports the value chain created by the livestock industry. It will be part of it. It will be part of the rice milling processing. It will be part of, and mark you, some of these processing plants will also be geared towards export, not only internal consumption. Of course, you have to satisfy yourself before you export. That is one aspect. The other thing, we have been talking about this value chain, and that's the vogue now. Everywhere you go, we are going to create value chain, but let us be very clear about it. There are 2 levels, probably even 3 levels, but let us leave it even at 2 levels. There is a micro value chain. And these are mostly where the donor agencies are keen into, helping the small, medium-scale farmers from production of their commodity to processing and then to marketing.
Are we mindful of the kind of maybe processing they will be bringing that will be adaptable to the country, or they will bring something that is alien to our environment?
No, it's related to the environment.
Okay.
But the fundamental issue is this. Value chain at the macro level, and that is to create a synergy between the agricultural sector and the industrial sector. That will bring in the agro-allied industries, and that is a savior we only have to reduce the high unemployment level in this country. You ask me how, and I will tell you. Go back to the 1980s. Up to 1986, Kano State was the most industrialized state in the country because of agro-allied industries, textile, oil milling plant, tanneries, and so on and so forth. But after 1986, most of these agro-allied industries virtually collapsed, arising from the structural adjustment program and arising also from the rising oil revenue, to which Nigeria is famous. Whenever the oil revenue goes up, agriculture suffers, because then we have money available to import food, everything from outside for direct consumption. Over the last 3 decades, 145 textile mills were lost. And this is the industry that employ young people. And the value chain in the textile sector, you can see it, the vertical value chain from the production of cotton to deginning of cotton to threading to buffing to dyeing and printing to packaging. At all this level, you are creating employment opportunities. And then when you go to the vertical horizontal chain, value chain, at the level of ginning, you have seed processing, you have oil extraction, then you have livestock feed. At every level, you are creating employment opportunities. But we have lost that. Don't ask me how, but probably I feel that everybody knows how.
Okay.
Partly government problem, partly even those investors in this textile mills.
Okay, that leads me to the question I want to take to Munir. With your position as the chairman of a House Committee on Agric Colleges and Research Institutions, the worry is the curriculum changing along the tide of what government is thinking about? If the institutions, the research institutions, are still tailoring their efforts at the old style, not keen to what government is thinking, Where lies the synergy? Are you doing something about that? For instance, we are talking about agri-processing zones, and students are being taught the hoe and knife. How will they key in?
So honestly, this is one of the major problems we are facing. First and foremost, even before that, from what I understand, even for the young ones to even study agriculture now is a problem, because they don't see it. They will only study agriculture as a last resort. But it doesn't matter whether you read agriculture or whatever you read, you can key in to the sector. But as I said, the problem is something that the committee and the National Assembly and the ministry will look at it. As I said, also, I am a farmer. I'm an entrepreneur also. And with the kind of graduates from the colleges, from the universities I employ in my farm, I have been training them, but still it is not what I am expecting, the result. So there are a lot of gaps in that, because it doesn't tally with what we have on this. This is technology and science. Without even in these days, you can use technology even to remove extension work. I have seen a Nigerian who has designed a system called Dembos, where you just put an instrument in the farm. It will tell you want to irrigate, how to fertilize, and a lot of things. It's in America. So technology has taken over many things, but as I'm telling you, even the curriculum in other parts of the world, there is what you call a subject or a course called mechatronics. You just give any graduate from that mechatronics engineering. I gave one major in NDA who read mechatronics. Okay, I want you to give us a solution to post-harvest issues in terms of our onions. He was able to come up with something that in my farm as a pilot scheme, which our research institutes are yet to embrace to keep to the pace of time.
So how do you intend to attack that using your position?
So what I did, I was able to ask the institution to meet the guy in my farm to see what he is doing so that they can come up with something. Because I asked in the institution, do you have anybody that has read what is called mechatronics? They said not at all. What they have been taught in our university is far away from what we know. So it's exactly what you have said. So even the curriculum has changed with how things are evolving in the world, the technology. So we need to look at that with the ministry and experts so that we can keep to the pace of time. And then also on the stable crop processing zone, I think that idea was, it started even when we started the ATA program, stable crop processing zone. You know, the government has done a lot in terms of power substations across the country. And I remember Kano State has been slated for this one of the staple crop processing zones, whereby you will have investors that will come to say, okay, I want to put a rice mill within the zone, government providing infrastructure, energy, everything, that it removes that cost to me. I put it there, then the farmer will be able, through aggregation centers or what have you, to take his paddy rice or his maize or whatever. There is what you call aggregation centers, so that when they are aggregated there, the miller will come and say, okay, we'll take it from the aggregators. Okay. So these are some of the things. It's a systematic way of improving the value chain. I know this has happened in Ethiopia now, whereby the way the Honorable Minister said, the textile industry. I think AFDB has funded a project in Ethiopia called one place called Hawassa for the textile value chain as a staple crop processing zone, and that is fetching them almost $1 billion per annum. Okay. That zone. Okay.
I think the minister is itchy to respond briefly, but it's time for us to go on our first break. But let me allow you to respond before we lose track of it, before we go on our first break. Then we continue with
I think
Salamatu and Professor
I think we touched on these research institutes. These are very fundamental to the development of agriculture, not only in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, because research are key to agricultural development. I think this is where we lost our bearing in this country. Some of the research institutions are doing very well, but they are handicapped. You can see the dichotomy. You pay a professor of research about 500,000 naira a month. He has no 200,000 to do research per annum. There's something wrong there. So, one of my past outing officially was to go to some of the research, 3 of the research institutions, all the research institutions in the north, that is Institute of Agricultural Research, Extension Services, and Napoli. And particularly Institute of Agricultural Research, which this gentleman was heading then. You know, they have the capacity to innovate. But their capacity to innovate academically is hampered by lack of funds. They have beautiful buildings, beautiful cars, beautiful everything. But then, money for research, why is it? It's not enough. That is number one. Number 2, especially Institute of Agricultural Research, which has a long history, they produce varieties of commodities, but they are not allowed to commercialize it. We are trying to liberalize so that they can go ahead and commercialize. That is very critical. They can have a patent on it, and once they are it is properly done, they can virtually market their commodity anywhere in the world. But otherwise, they are being asked to submit what they produce to seed breeders, and in the process, you get several problems, adulteration, and several other things that you can be associated with that kind of thing. So let us be clear, we need to have a national research institute policy with a view to revamping them, streamlining them, so that they can be more cost effective, they can be more well managed, and they can be more well focused. Thank you.
It's time for our first break. You can be part of the conversation through our phone lines displayed on the screen and also on our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. Don't go away just after this time out. Stay with us.
Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
We're taking a look at appraising Nigeria's agricultural value chain. We have taken a couple of reports already. Now we go to the next line of reports, beginning with that from Nasarawa State.
Nasarawa State is endowed with fertile arable land and favorable climate conditions for all year-round agricultural activities. But there has also been a shift to ensure private sector contributes to agricultural development of Nigeria. The state currently hosts the largest rice farm and sugarcane plantation in Doma and away local government areas owned by investors, contributing to food production and supporting hundreds of outgrowers.
Like what Dangote is doing now, it's not just the government bringing in money, the private sector, he is also bringing money. Now the development is not going just to center on his own business, but other people benefiting from this business.
Many more are finding their way to the state with signing of memorandum of understanding between the state government and investors to cultivate 14,000 hectares of land for rice production in total.
We're having excellent cooperation from the communities. They're buying into the project. They're taking ownership of it. As they see it developing, they're also getting involved in the excitement and the prospects that the project offers.
They will boost food production, and also our people have an opportunity to have something doing.
Governor Abdullahi Sule says government will continue to support private sector to invest in agriculture to drive the industrialization agenda of the state government.
This intervention is in tandem with the vision and development objectives of this administration, aimed at giving agriculture its pride place as the major mover of our state economy.
With sustained commitment, stakeholders say the state will not only be the home of solid minerals, but another food basket of the nation. In Lafia, Aliyu Tijani Mohammed.
Take yet another report from Port Harcourt, River State.
The closure of Nigeria's land borders created a gold mine for agro-business development for the Nigerian agricultural sector.
A lot of rice processing mills, a lot of chicken farm, poultry, which is helping the society. And now there's market for them. They don't need to fight with illegal product entering the country.
Unlike their counterparts in other parts of Nigeria, private sector investment in agriculture in River State is still low. Many of those engaged in farming are still at the subsistence level. A number of the private sector investors who have ventured into commercial agriculture identified paucity of land, funding constraints, loan collateral issues, and wastages arising from absence of processing and storage facilities as major constraints.
They should start with maybe making a provision for land or giving out loans to the individual that are willing to invest into agriculture.
The good news to some stakeholders is that government in the state has created the enabling environment, training for local farmers, provision of improved seedlings, and deployment of state-of-the-art technology. Keen watchers say will make the sector more attractive, especially for young people. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amajiri.
Still on appraising the Nigerian agricultural value chain, let's take a listen to this report from Sokoto.
Private sector participation in agriculture remains critical in boosting societal development. For instance, this farm belongs to an individual that has over the years been impacting positively in boosting agriculture and provision of food to the public. Students from tertiary institutions also take advantage of the farm for learning and research, which add value to their academic pursuits.
There are many youths, many graduates that are unemployed. By the introduction of this farm, I give a lot of graduates that opportunity to come and work with us here. At the end of the month, they can be able to have what they are supposed to have. The capacity of eggs that we do produce in this farm, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we do produce about 120 to 130 crates of eggs daily.
The owner of the farm is among many entrepreneurs that contribute to boosting agriculture. To check the problem of post-harvest loss of perishable items like onion, as Sokoto is the largest producer of the crop, a private company provides alternative storage for farmers which can be used for over 10 years.
This company will come back and offtake the onion from this farmer, and they are going to transform the onion into powder as it is a raw material.
Maize farmers in Sokoto are currently reaping the benefit of the federal government and CBN intervention through Anko Borowa, which boosts their productions.
The industries in Sokoto right now are even willing to come into this program.
There had been other attempts to boost agriculture through private partnership, like that of Auto Grower Scheme for rice farmers by Dangote and Plan Sugar Factory. In Sokoto, Muhammad Nasir.
Let's proceed to Benin, Edo State.
Edo State is a predominantly agrarian state with a landmass of 97.187 square kilometers, of which about 70% is cultivable land for agricultural production. The state government's agripreneur program aimed at ensuring food security and wealth creation in the state enjoys support from the CBN, international development agencies, private investors, and other stakeholders in the agricultural value chain.
There's a set of skill sets that people in the private sector bring in and marry with whatever skill set that government has. And when you are able to marry both together, it works out real well. As the government, people do things a little bit differently. While in the private sector, it's all about profit making and profit driven. So with those combinations, in our experience, it has worked out real well.
The public-private partnership arrangement is now paying off as agricultural productivity and mechanization, preservation, processing and distribution are at the farmer's disposal.
I'm happy with the program. It's a good thing, and I pray that it should come on the segment.
So it's very nice. We are ready at any point in time to work for government.
As far as this assistance is with us right now, at least we can start from here.
The state government motivates investors who are interested in farming by waiving cost of CFOs on farmlands and speeding up the process. The moribund Edo fertilizer plant and chemical company have been reinvigorated under the partnership arrangement between the state government and the stakeholders in the agricultural value chain.
The private sector like us, we are only driven by properly established grounds, and for us this is a huge opportunity and we would like to see this happen in other states.
Government is hopeful that with its intervention, more citizens of the state will see the practice of agriculture as lucrative and private participation in the sector would keep increasing. In Benin, good luck in Inaini, NTA News.
You can be part of the conversation by sending in your tweets at Tuesday Live NTA or also putting your calls through. Now back to our discuss. Let me go to Wofan. Experts have talked so much about all this without linkages may amount to naught. So what's your agreement or disagreement regarding linkages between farmers and the market, looking at cost of production within the value chain?
Thank you once again. Linkages are very, very important for the value chain. And like the Honorable Minister said, for every step of the value chain is an opportunity to create job opportunities for women and youths, and also to add value to the product. One of the reasons why we're not making so much profit or making it attractive to youths in particular is not providing sufficient value addition to it. So we have to take it from seed to production, from production to processing, and then you add value, you package, you transport, and so on. But even the backward integration is also very important. What is happening to the huge mountain of husk that we have around the rice value chain? We're so excited that we're producing rice in tons, but we are faced with the menace of this husk, and we're not providing enough education to the farmers that is also a mountain of money if they know that, because you can transform that husk to so many things. So it means that there's another linkage there that is hidden, which can provide job for the teeming populace, especially if you look at the women. They take it up from the point of processing. Let's agree 70% on the farm when it comes to mechanization is men, but when it comes to tilling or transplanting with hand, you know, it's women. I'm talking mechanization now. But then if it comes to processing, 70% is women. So if the linkages will look at building the capacity of women with improved milling machines. For instance, instead of giving the women a spaghetti making machine, give them small mills. For instance, WOFAN is supported by 2 organizations now. We're providing meals for women, and these women have moved from laborers to managers. They are now managers of their enterprise, and Tauraruwa rice is in the market. The reason why these women rose from just farm laborers and have become farm managers is because we have added value to linkages. So I feel that is something very, very important, value addition. Why are we not in the market competitively? Our rice needs to be competitive globally, and it means that the linkages will include sustainable production. There is what we call the sustainable rice platform. So we need to move away from some of these things, building them into the linkages, marketing, the power of negotiation. We need to build the capacity of our farmers to own their own businesses, to market it themselves. What about pricing? Nobody educates them. They are being at the disadvantaged position. So pricing, you know, is also along the value chain. So all of these are very, very vital, and I think that our priority for the next 2 years will be to look out for the missing link. What are the missing links in the agricultural value chain? Not to come back every day and be talking about the same value chain. Let's fish out the link. Like I was discussing before we came in, I talked about nutrition. You cannot be talking about food nutrition without talking about nutrition security. And that is an important component of the linkages we're talking about. We cannot produce so much and be malnourished. So it means that we need to fish out why we have malnourished, that high number of malnourished family. And we need to know even the degree of the malnutrition. Is it stunted? Is it wasted? Is it whatever? With that, we now have a sense of classification. The farmer will not just produce for money, he should produce to live and remain healthy. So these are the important linkages, and I think we should have passion to tease out where the linkage, the missing links are.
Okay. Prof, you once wore the shoe of the executive director of a research institute, and before we went on break, the minister said that he is worried. A research institute is established, very imposing, beautiful structure, wonderful vehicles, and the minimum you pay a professor in that research institute is 500,000 monthly, but funds are not made available for the research effort to be carried out. That's the concern he raised. Now, given the fact that you have won this shoe, what is the way forward?
Thank you very much. As you are aware,
bending backwards to the
research is truly the foundation of development all over the world. You cannot make progress in all endeavors without being backed by research. And as the minister said, the situation sometimes is pathetic. You will see research scientists and professors collecting their salary every month, but unable to carry out research because of inadequacy in funding. And funding is very critical to research, because research today is cutting-edge research. That means you have to buy very sensitive and expensive laboratory equipment, laboratory and field equipment. You have to be able to pay laborers and other incentives that go with the research. And all this requires a lot of funding. And funding, like I said, when the minister was in our institute, I mentioned one of the critical problems of research is funding. Number one is funding, number two is funding, number three is funding. Research has to be properly funded to be able to see results. We keep envying research institutes outside this country for their remarkable achievement in those climes. We can do the same. We have highly qualified research scientists who have not only studied in this country, but outside this country, in the same environment with those scientists we envy. The only difference is that our scientists here are not adequately funded. You will see a research scientist in some laboratories outside this country employing postgraduate students to do research for them, paying postgraduate students to work in his laboratory, funding postgraduate research in his laboratory. And that is how we come about this very interesting house that we showcase all over in international climes. Researchers win Nobel Prizes. It is not just by accident. It is through proper funding. I know globally, researchers do not have to depend solely on government for funding because they can compete for grants all over the world. And some of our researchers are actually competing for grants. In IR, for example, we have several third-party projects that we compete globally with other scientists all over the world and be able to win, and we do such research. So we encourage scientists in other research institutes to do the same, not just relying on government. But at the same time, the government should also live up to its expectation by providing adequate funding, not just salary for staff, not just salary, not just providing vehicles and so. I don't know where the Honorable Minister got to know that we have very beautiful vehicles. We don't, actually. we may have buildings which is through the...
I am making a general statement.
Yeah, courtesy of...
Let me quickly take this tweet.
Yes, okay.
Let me take this, although the tweet is there, but I think it has been addressed somehow. Ridwan Abdullahi says, agriculture can be improved only if local farmers are seriously assisted, not just political assistance, but real in terms of training and financial motivation. I'll come to the Chairman, House Committee on Agri-Colleges and Research Institutions after this report from Kebbi. Is negating to respond to what you said. Let's take it from Kebbi. Maybe after that we'll take it down from Calabar too.
President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurated the Uncle Borrowers program in Kebbi State in 2015. This was with a view to enhancing rice and wheat value chains through soft loans for farmers in the participating states. The program expectedly recorded huge success by increasing farmers' productivity with corresponding improvement on the rice value chain.
If you look around, we have so many rice mills coming off in Kebbi State. We have one of the largest rice mills in Kebbi, and we have smaller ones like us, and we are really doing it better, and we hope to do it better in the future.
Labana has 16 metric tons per hour capacity rice mill, but that launching of Uncle Borrowers program and what we benefited, what we were able to mobilize as a factory, that encouraged Labana to now start thinking of expansion, which we are in the process of doing. We are now establishing a 20 tons per hour capacity rice mill in Kebbi.
However, recovery of the loan was not without some challenges, especially in the Kebbi State government anchored segment.
Farmers, unfortunately, are listening to some mischief makers who, right from the onset of the program, were working against the success of the program. So they had that impression the loan given to them was not loan, it was a gift.
The misconception stakeholders said must be avoided for the consolidations of the gains of the program.
Those who are real farmers have rarely paid. It is those who thought, you see, when you are in politics, people take in just like a gift.
The stakeholders describe rice value chain as one of the most veritable, as nothing is a waste in rice, hence the need for all stakeholders, including farmers, to work towards its sustenance. In Birnin Kebbi, Nura Tanko Wakili.
We also have a report from Calabar, Cross River State.
The rice value chain, right from the land acquisition, preparation, cultivation, processing and marketing, is at its peak in Cross River State, with the policy drive of the current administration providing and giving the necessary partnership for the rice business to thrive. Apart from the finances provided by the CBN to support the rice value chain, the Cross River State government has acquired machinery to assist interested farmers in land clearing, build the rice seeds and seedling factory, ultra-modern rice mill in Abuja, instant noodles factory with rice as primary raw materials. With these strides, only recently, the entire rice family in the country under the auspices of the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN, converged on Calabar to flag off the 2020 dry season rice farming program in Nigeria.
Cross River State have decided to take the lead by creating an architecture of technology, engineering, experientially growing a value chain that otherwise is not known to our client.
What is here is exactly what will support Mr. President to continue to have courage to close the borders of Nigeria, particularly the informal borders.
If you're looking for forex to import equipment, we give you. If you're looking at working capital to drive this kind of thing, we'll give you, just as we have done with the Cross River State government.
With this rice seedling, rice farmers will have the maximum yield possible.
On the issue of the federal government lending money via the CBN to farmers, such as the anchor borrowers loan, among others, the main challenge is the inability of some farmers to pay back within the stipulated period of agreement, thereby shutting the doors against other genuine and prospective farmers.
Farmers need grants. This is how to industrialize, to support them. $16 billion as grants, not loan.
However, sensitization, advocacy, effective extension and monitoring is improving farmers' response, while government at all levels are being encouraged to sustain the momentum in agricultural revolution. In Calabar, Paul Abel.
Besides the reports dotting the landscape of Nigeria on what the agricultural value chain looks like and what government is doing side by side the PPP model in place, we went to town to talk to Nigerians. What's their view? Let's take a listen.
The development so far is good. Has actually helped a lot of people who are into farming sell more, produce more, and sell, and even make produce from profits from their goods. Like for example, last week I got talking to someone from my place, that's in Benue State, and she said, compared to before now, that they would sell after the whole stress of trying to produce a basket of tomato, you sell it at a very cheap rate. The price has actually gone high, and then she is also thinking of investing more into it because the agricultural system is now a better one to actually invest in. And then the cross farming, yes, it's a lot better now. At least loans are given to people, yes, and they use these loans to farm. After farming, the government can still buy from them. So which means you are not just left with whatever you've produced.
The agricultural potential we have in this country is properly explored. We will have no reason to import anything from outside. And the Minister of Agri and the government is doing its best to make sure that we meet that expectation.
Well, as a matter of fact, kudos to the government of the Republic of Nigeria for taking their time to think positively in order to bring change into the country. No country in the world, in this world, that solely rely or depend on importation for what its citizen will eat or feed. And we expected the country to grow. We keep remain a third world country. But with the major taken by the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, farmers are happy. We are blessed with abundant natural resources such as farmlands. Look at the anchor borrower introduced by the government via Central Bank of Nigeria, given a soft loan. In recent time, African Development Bank came in to even give a soft loan to our peasant farmers. We have vast land. Look at the vegetation of Nigeria, particularly my region, Middle Belt. Go to places like Nasarawa, Benue, Niger, just to mention but a few. Niger can feed the whole nation, Niger State, in terms of rice production.
I think that policy is one of the most important policies of the present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Since his campaign days, he has promised Nigerians to turn around the fortunes of Nigeria, especially in areas of diversification of its economy. Agriculture is one of them. The policy has afforded farmers especially small-scale farmers, to be able to sell their inputs. Unlike before, where farmers will produce agricultural products and there will be no market for it. I think they seem to have a boom this time around, and it's a very good policy.
Those were Nigerians lending their line of thought on the issue appraising Nigeria's agricultural value chain. Honorable Munir, you were to respond to what Professor said before we went on break.
Yes, I think from my understanding, one of the issues is even apart from inadequate funding, but there is this issue of early time releases of the funds. Especially if you take agriculture, to have the same budget with other ministries. Agriculture is time. And before this year's budget, we used to have our budget passed after the rain has established itself. And that is the beginning. You start preparing your research even in the field before the rain starts. So where do you get the money to do all this? So early releases and funding. If you get, let's say, 100 million naira, and at the end you get only 40% of the release. So that is an issue. Then another problem I see in the system, I can say the whole country, which we have to go back to drawing board. As I see it, what we are doing in terms of personnel and recurrent expenditure in the country, if you take federal government, state, local government, and aggregate everybody to what the country is earning and what is paying personnel and recurrent, more than 70% to 80%, and you still expect to come and cater for research and development and other aspects of our infrastructural development. This is something that we have to have a think of it. Otherwise, we'll never get to anywhere, because it's a serious problem. Not, you see, as I said, look at the public service or public servants from local government to state. We are not up to 5 million Nigerians, but we consume, with our current expenditure, we consume more than 70 to 80% of what the country is earning, according to this 3 tier of government. And we still expect to do something for the rest of maybe 180 to 190 million Nigerians. So this scenario has to change. We have to think outside the box.
Okay, before I move on to the next sector, let me listen to Salamatu briefly before I take on the minister.
Okay, thank you. To add my voice to the issue of research, in as much as we have explored the funding aspect, we also need to look at translating this research into action. All the researches we have done in the past, how has it translated into implementation by the farmers? Take any lecturer, you find out that he has huge files of thesis and so many researches with very good outcome that is there. How has federal government encouraged these researchers to now bring this down so that it comes to the level of the farmers? If you take aflatoxin, for instance, now our groundnut is not going into the international market because groundnut from Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa is said to have a load full of aflatoxin. And one of the things we're trying to propagate now is to have an aflatoxin-free groundnut so that you can sell from the confectionaries to the oil-producing ones. And so many people have done a lot of researches. Even right now, there's what we call the AflaSafe. AflaSafe, I'm wondering why we're not working with the research institutions and extension workers to apply just 10 kg of AflaSafe to every hectare of groundnut farm. That's all you need with the good agricultural practices. And all this noise about aflatoxin from Nigeria, the story would have ended. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is, in as much as we need fund, let us use this outcome, the researches, every year, volumes of successful researches, go to income. You see half completed or even fabricated equipment that are there, not followed up to be used in the farms. The same thing with NERLS, the same thing with Bayero University Technology Department. So we need to marry all of this together to be able to translate it to action.
Okay, before I take the minister on that, I think that's a huge challenge on Professor Abubakar.
Thank you very much. It is true that we have lots of research output on the shelf, but as I heard the minister at the background to this Tuesday Live talking about extension. Actually, extension is the weakest and missing link between research and farmers. The vehicle for carrying the research output from the research institute to the farmers is extension. And this extension, we have problems with our extension today due to low quantity of extension personnel, low quality of the extension personnel because of poor training, and also we have very little funding to extension. The extension personnel are not mobile, they need to be mobile. There are so many other incentives that should be provided to them to be able to carry out their duties effectively and efficiently. And you know that for any meaningful development to occur, we really have to give extension proper attention. Proper attention. At the time, I remember in the last Tuesday Live, I just have an afterthought. We have done it before. Extension was successful before when it was funded by the World Bank. And you know the problem with Nigeria is projects come and they are not sustainable. Sustainability of projects is one thing. We have to make projects sustainable. We can do it. We don't have to go and borrow any money from the World Bank to be able to fund extension in this country. For example, Universal Basic Education Commission is funded collectively because education is in concurrent list, collectively by federal, state, and local government. The same thing with extension. Extension is supposed to be in concurrent list. That means the federal government, the state government, and local government should provide funding. In UBA, for example, the federal government provides some funding, state provide counterpart funding before the money is released. Why don't we do the same thing with extension? There has to be a drastic measure that should be taken to actually solve this problem of extension. Otherwise, Anko Borrower program will fail. All other programs that we think will succeed will not succeed because farmers will not know how to grow crops. And once that primary production fails, all the other value chain will fail also.
Okay, let's take this first call out from Benin Kebi, Uma. Hello, Uma. Hello, Uma.
I'm Umar Anat calling from Benin Kebi.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. You see, there is no country in the world that succeeds agriculture-wise without government intervention. This government intervention is supposed to come to the farmers directly. Kebbi State, we have a lot of rice research, like Lavana, and that of Argungu, and there is another one in Kamba, and even the other one in Yauri. But where is the rice to feed in those rice mills? We don't have rice to feed in the rice mill. You see, there is this government intervention that's supposed to come to the farmers, but there is politics. It's playing with it, just like what the Honorable is saying. Let us remove anything political out of this. And something like this e-wallet that the Honorable Minister talked of. You see, it is not everything that the previous government does that you throw inside the dustbin. Some of the things that the government does, the previous government does, bring it. If it is good for this administration, let us bring it. Something like this e-wallet. Many people have benefited from e-wallet. Now, the this thing, it is the e-wallet, through e-wallet, that I have fertilizer, for example, and there is no any person's intervention in e-wallet. So bring all those programs that can have direct bearing, that can have direct link with peasant farmers. Those farmers at the grassroots, they need help, they need assistance. Yes, may God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Umar. Umar called in from Benin, Kebbi. I think I should allow the Honourable Minister to respond to that. Come to you, Munir. What do you think?
On what?
Taking off from Umar's phone call, he has talked about the issue of government intervention being politicized, the issue of sustainability of policies that should have lived even a particular government, not because maybe you don't like the face of that government.
Well, I think he was talking relevance in this regard because previous aids have just dissipated. I remember even under this Uncle way back 3-4 years ago, most of the people that benefited were not even farmers.
Yeah.
They were merely politicians, and that probably 70% of what has been distributed has gone to people that are not really farmers. That is a fact. And I think it's something that we have to look at and review it and see how best we can be able to alleviate the problem in this regard.
Let's listen to Munim to come back to your livestock issues.
As I said, what the gentleman has said, for me, as I said, I have had the previous experience and I'm now in the new dispensation and I am seeing the two. If you take the e-wallet system, the farmers under that program.
Sorry, let's take this caller from Makodi, then you respond completely.
Okay.
Hello, Kene. Kene is calling from Makodi, Benue State. Hello?
Yeah, hello, I'm here.
Go ahead, please. We can hear you.
Yeah, hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead, Kene. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, I need to commend you for the program, for the topic.
Thank you.
The Honorable Minister, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, true.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, as I said, we have a problem in Nigeria. The problem we have in Nigeria is we come out with good policies. We come out with a lot of credible policies in the country, but implementation is a problem. But I want to put it here to the federal government, to the state, the local government, and everybody. Agriculture in this country is what everybody really needs to kill in. All the policies we think they're going to help us, we should try as much as possible as the people put all our hands on deck, push this. Now we don't talk about oil again, we talk about agriculture. I heard so much about what the Honorable Minister is actually saying there. From the experience and from what he said so far, the country is actually doing excellently well in the way of agriculture. But we shouldn't politicize agriculture. If we involve politics in agriculture, the Honorable Minister, I bet you we are not going to take anything anywhere. So I so much appreciate, and then I advise the federal government to do everything possible to make sure that the people, the farmers, let's not talk about the political farmers, but we talk about the peasant and local farmers, people who need every support from the federal, the state, the local government, for them to make agriculture a boost in our country. Let us be compete with the world, the countries who think they can do agriculture. Okay, today, Malaysia gets from Canada, from Nigeria. Today, Malaysia can export oil. What are we doing in the country? We should try as possible. We don't need to go outside. We have this thing within our corridor. We have a lot of people who can. I think we have about 3 agricultural universities in this country. Omodike, Federal University of Agriculture, Makodi, and Abeokuta there. All those universities can bring us something what we need in this country. Even if something we cannot even use paper. But we can try as much as people. The federal government have actually put in the issue of rice. We don't even import rice again. We don't buy rice from outside the country. Our farmers are benefiting from here. I think these policies can come up and then we can do something better. So that so much appreciate you, the Honorable Minister. I want to give you a message to take it home. Try as much as possible. The necessary thing you need to do for this country, you should do it so that we can get it right. Thank you, and God bless the country. Nigeria.
Thank you, Kenneth called in from Makodi. I think you should conclude, then the minister can respond.
Yes, I think some of the problems we are having is lack of legislation in terms of the successes of previous governments. Even from what we have said, in these policies started since 1967, what you call farm settlement scheme in 1967 up to this Ankoboro. About more than 30 programs. So my hope is that the ministry and the legislature will look at some of these policies, articulate them, and see where best we can put them under one policy and legislate so that the country can continue to move. Whoever comes will not just wake up and change things. As I said, the e-wallet system, if you look at it under the previous government, about 14.5 million farmers were captured, as against the Anko Borough, which is just about 1 million farmers. So if you look at it in terms of the volume of money injected, even though this one is loan, but that one has to do with some form of subsidy, which I think, to the best of my knowledge, that is what Nigerians need, not total loans, because by the time we go back and assess the issue of repayment, and that's where we'll have a problem with Nigerians. But we need to do what is obtained in other jurisdictions for the Nigerian smallholder farmer. This is my thing.
Thank you so much. The ministers need to respond. A huge gamut has been raised, but in doing this, you have to also touch on the much talked about livestock initiative under your dispensation.
I think the speaker was generally talking about sustainability of policies.
Yes, and the politicization of government intervention.
The politicization of government intervention. All these are political issues. And I think the issue is this: we have to learn to understand that in business, and especially in the business of agriculture, we have to mellow down the issue of politics into it. If ex-government is coming up with a good program and you happen to come the head of government, I think we should continue with that and make sure we make improvement and make it to consolidate. Mostly people out of impulse
they will say, well, we cancel this, we cancel that. Well, that's not the way to run government. Government is continuous. And I think this administration has shown, particularly in the area of road construction, they took upon itself that they have to complete all the projects have been started by the previous government. In agriculture, it may be a little bit difficult because the situation is diverse. But what is important, even in this subsidy issues that people have been talking about, you have to find out at what level do you do this subsidy. Is it at production level, at the market level, or at consumption level? My own feeling that, especially with regard to imports, I think we should adopt a system of subsidy at the production level. And then you make sure that when the thing goes to the market, it's sold at the price that is agreed upon. I think this government at some point, I think about 2 years ago or 3, when they intervened in the issue of fertilizer, it was at the production level that they subsidize. And then it's marketed throughout at 5,500 naira per bag of fertilizer. And it worked. And you can take similar things in that regard. And the bulk of the major problem is this. You know, in a country with vast agricultural potential, you know, we have to make serious effort in terms of production of our inputs internally. We have most of the raw materials that we require internally. We don't need to import them. Yeah.
Okay. Now, quickly, let's take these tweets before we go to specifics. Nadop Wiyip says, 2 questions. Is it possible for the market price of our locally grown crops to be controlled, monitored, and in uniform across the country by the government? 2, knowing that chemical fertilizer is detrimental to our health, why is it still encouraged? God bless Nigeria. Next is Mustafa Mohammed Kiari. Hello, good evening, guests. My question is, what is the impact of agricultural value chain? 2, who are the actors of agricultural value chain?
So many.
Can I leave that to your Honourable Minister?
There are so many people that are active in agricultural value chain. But let me, what is the past question is?
The question was, is it possible for market price of our locally grown crops to be controlled, monitored, and in uniform across the country by the government?
What I wouldn't like is a situation whereby you intervene and you tell the people this is how much you are going to sell your product. But previously we talked about these silos, which are supposed to be buffer zone. Once the price is up, you bring it to smoothen the price. But what is important is to have a national pricing policy for major commodities, so that if these prices go beyond this, you will intervene by flooding the market with goods so that you moderate. If it is below, you buy to balance up. That's the essence of these strategic silos that we put across the states, about 33 of them. So, but not this kind of the usual price controller, you must sell it. No. You can engineer a way in which you can moderate the market. And that is happening all over the world. It's not the kind of situation that you say, you know, you have to sell your commodity. It doesn't work that way.
Okay. Let me allow Salamatu and Professor Bwaka to respond to the next one, which says, my question is, what is the impact of the agricultural value chain? Who are the actors of the agricultural value chain? Let me leave it to the two of you. Starting with you, Salamatu.
Okay. I would like to respond also to the issue of chemicals.
Not too long, we don't have all the time. Okay,
yes, quickly. You know, he's asking why we still have pesticides.
No, chemical fertilizer.
Chemical fertilizer. Okay, why we still have chemical fertilizer? It boils down to the issue of the research we're talking about. For instance, we have a lot of neem-based products. We have neem-based fertilizer, neem-based herbicides, pre-herbicides, and so on. And, you know, if we have fertilizer blending farms, we should also inject this into that and make sure that we're using agronomically produced fertilizers and pesticides. So, and those that are not injurious to our crops. Then who are the actors of value chain? Everybody is an actor because the value chain concerns everybody, including the air that we breathe, because you want to reduce carbon emission, some in part of controlling the value chain. So it concerns everybody, and it's a job creation opportunity for everyone. And I still insist, the teeming populace we have, especially youths that are out there.
You talk about the women too.
Women and youth together, yes, but youths particularly. I think we will use the missing link, I'm reiterating again, to create a lot of opportunities for them.
Okay, Prof.
Yes, thank you very much. He talks about chemical fertilizers being harmful. I think this is a very wrong information. It's fake news. It has no scientific basis. Fertilizers, chemical fertilizers are not harmful to human. They are only harmful to the environment if they are properly used and applied. As opposed to organic fertilizers that actually condition the soil. But proper use of chemical fertilizers, I don't know what the human race will do today without fertilizer. The whole of United States, Europe depend very heavily on fertilizers. They use as much as 180 kg nitrogen per hectare, as against an average use of just about 12 to 15 kg nitrogen per hectare in Africa and other developing countries. So we are not even yet there. We are not even using the chemical fertilizers optimally. And for the impact of value chain, we have emphasized, almost every one of us said here, it creates employment, it raises the income of the farmers and other actors within the value chain. You know, when you have textile, for example, the Honorable Minister has highlighted the numerous value chain that arise out of textile. Wheat, for example, numerous, you know, to the extent that everybody will be engaged, the youths, the unemployed youths. And one other thing about value chain, it's not just about agricultural graduates, because the Honorable is talking about mechatronics, which is an engineering course. When you talk about value chain, engineers are involved, economics are involved, agricultural graduates, everybody.
Even the media is involved.
So this will create, even the media, of course, even the media. So this will create vast employment opportunities for this country. Most of our unemployed youth will be engaged.
Let me quickly allow Monil respond briefly before I allow the minister to give a closing thought. But you have to put a little emphasis on livestock. Your closing remarks.
Okay. On the value chain is like what you have seen for...
He didn't mention politicians, they are also in the value chain.
Yeah. Yes, and you see, let me start, if you take rice, for example, the researcher who research on the seeds, the breeder seed, then you come to foundation seed, then certified seeds, then you go and plant and you get grains. The farmer plant, then somebody who buys and process, like the milling industry, and then the consumer, and then all dealers who sell the rice, then the person who eats. So this is the value chain that we are looking. And for me, even if you look at the livestock sector, I have been trying to do something on livestock, but we still need to do a lot in this country. As we said, research.
Okay.
Research is key. Research is key. Okay. We have seen a research in Morocco on livestock on sheep and goats, whereby a sheep will weigh up to over 100 kg. But when we look at some of our research system here, they even see it's impossible to do that. I think Professor was there when we went to Morocco. So research is key to all these things. And livestock, development in this country, we have to bring what you call the breeds that will change in terms of productivity in meat, in milk, and what have you, so that people can be able to have reasonable income when they go into the business.
Thank you so much. You just have like 2 minutes to tie up.
Well, I think looking at it from a global point of view, agriculture is the engine of growth in this country. There is no doubt about it. And I think everybody has to be serious about it. And we have to remove all the biases that are retarding the progress in the agricultural sector. Once we understand that, I think the sky is the limit for Nigeria to develop, to become a big agricultural country. And to also not only to put self-sufficiency, but also to create a platform for industrialization. I think with regard to the livestock that you are talking about, I've always said we have an asset over 30 trillion naira. Cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, and all horses, donkeys, and others. And this represents nearly 17% of our GDP. How on earth can you introduce politics into this, or ethnicity or religion? What is the business of a church with cattle breeding or a mosque with pig breeding? That is not his business. We are talking about agriculture, to be honest with you. And I think if we can be able to develop our livestock industry, we don't need to import milk. We have about 25 million heads of cattle in this country. Our consumption of milk is just about 5 million. If you do just a simple arithmetic, 5 million cows will give us 5 million liters, 1 liter per day. We are home and dry. And I think the rate at which we are going, we can close shop with regard to importation of milk in the next 1 or 2 years. I am pleased that I have seen what you have seen from there. I heard about it, and I have seen the program in Ondo, Osun, and Oyo. They are also coming to Niger, and they are coming to Kaduna is Wapco. And this is a very encouraging sign, the program that is going on in Kaduna. So, and the way I have also seen investors rushing for livestock development in this country is really is very encouraging.
At this point, thank you so much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much.
Mohamedou Sabo Nanunu, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. It was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight.
Thank you.
And also Munil Baba Danagundi, Chairman House Committee on Agri-Colleges and Research Institutions. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Salamatu Garba, Executive Director of Women Farmers Advancement Network. Good to have you. Thank you for being here on the program tonight.
Thank you.
And Professor of Agronomy, Professor Umar Abubakar, former Executive Director, Institute of Agricultural Research. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you very much.
And to our callers, we appreciate you. To those who sent tweets, we also appreciate you. Always make time to be part of the program. On behalf of all of us, thanks for watching.